Welcome to the Empowered Life. I am your friend, Ern Inyon. This podcast aims to inspire you to create the life that you want to live. If you are not yet a subscriber, be sure to subscribe and get notified when a new episode is posted. Now let's go on with the show. Hi everyone. Last episode we talked about the dynamics of change. In this episode, let's talk about why most people are resistant to change. And one of the main reasons I believe is procrastination. People may seem to be resistant to change because change is not happening in them. They want to change, but they keep on putting the necessary action off. So for example, if you ask people if they want to be rich or to have more money, you will always get a yes answer. Even though the benefits are clear, like to bring their children to better schools, to buy a house so that they can have a home, to put food on the table, to visit friends and family, etc. It is obvious that life is so much better when you have money because it precipitates action. Yet, people won't even set goals to achieve them. People won't even take the first step. Another example is health. In the US, 42% of adults have obesity. In the Philippines, the Department of Health has projected that more than 30% of Filipino adults will have obesity by 2030. Obesity shouldn't be a problem here because we are considered a low to medium to middle income nation. However, Filipinos love to eat. We eat 5 times a day. And we love to celebrate and eat out with friends. Everyone knows that when you have obesity, it brings many health problems. And it is common knowledge that the solution is, and has always been, diet and exercise, which we keep on putting off. So, procrastination is a habit. Even successful people procrastinate also. So we all have our own favorite excuses for not doing. So the key is to identify what procrastination type you fall into, and so that by knowing it will help you break your pattern and set you to complete the job. So here are the different procrastination personality types. The first one is what we call the overbooker. So this procrastinator loves to fill up his calendar with all the activities. After filling the calendar, it can be overwhelming. I'm so busy, that's the favorite excuse. If you keep having this excuse, it is an indication of avoidance. I know this very well because this was my problem before. I will fill up my month, week, and day calendar with tasks, including the details. I would be very, very, specific on the task. Then I would get overwhelmed with all the tasks that I've written. It's really crazy. After doing most, but I would go and fulfill the task. But after doing most of the tasks, I still felt disappointed because I still have tasks to do. So, but I would probably say that over the years I got better by prioritizing tasks and compartmentalizing. But I will share that to you in another episode, how to prioritize and compartmentalize. But for years, I kept on avoiding like parties and reunions. Not because I don't like those people, but I just don't like too many people and the loud music, and also I'm not fond of small talks either. Of course, I went to disco when it was still called disco. I guess it is about tolerance, at the end of the day. As a result, when I look at my Facebook account, I have very few friends. But I'm not really bothered I'm not here to win a popularity contest or run for a government seat. And going back to you, if you keep on hearing yourself, I'm so busy, I'm I have no time, you have to ask yourself, what is it that you are trying to avoid? What is that fear that is holding you back? Is it a fear of failure? So again, it is better you identify that fear so that you can address it. For many years, I always dream of writing a book. When I write my goals before the year starts, it is always there. Write a book. And it is apparent, the apparent fear that I have was the fear of failure. So I kept on asking myself, well, who will read my book? What if it becomes a complete bust? It took me a while to get over it, that fear, until I decided, well, I wouldn't know that if I will not do, if I will not write my book. So, well, I haven't published yet my book, but I am progressing in that journey. So again, know what fear that is holding you back. The second procrastinator type is what we call the self-deprecator. This is the weakness of self-driven people, I would say. When they find themselves not doing anything, they call themselves lazy. They don't know how to take a break. I would say that my wife and I are two self-driven people. When we got married, both of us were taking up masters, aside from having our own day job. We never took vacations. Of course, we went home to her hometown almost every Christmas, but that was it. Our first foreign trip was in 2007, and that was the first time I saw Mickey Mouse. Yes, it is so late, but I'm still grateful nonetheless. I didn't appreciate rest or recreation before I saw it as a waste of time. And every time I missed my task, I would be hard on myself for being lazy. But as I get older, I started to appreciate rest. Rest is as important as doing. What rest gives you is not just a physical break so that your body can recuperate, but more than that, it is really the time to introspect, to to ask yourself some deeper questions. So it is the time to check your priorities, if what you're doing is still relevant, or if there's a better way. My wife and I would spend vacations more right now. And what is more ironic is that actually I believe we accomplish more. The third the third type of procrastinator is what I call the ton of requirements. I met a lot of people who wants to start a business, write a book, start a YouTube channel or podcast, but they never did because, well, they need money for capital, they need a brand new microphone, enroll in a public speaking class, etc. They have a ton of requirements to the point that they never get to start. I know how this works because this used to be my problem also. This podcasting gig of mine is a personal milestone for me. I always wanted to have a podcast because, I wanted to share what I've read. I feel and I believe that I can make a difference to people. So yeah, so again, it's a personal milestone. I always wanted to have a podcast, but I had so many requirements before. Apart from the content, I wanted to have a high quality microphone like the Blue Yeti or the Shure, you know, Bose headphones, um, a glass table, quality chair, or soundproof room, and so on. You know, it took me a year. It took me a year to research also and to um, to stabilize or um, to be firm on my content. And so I started collating my requirements, but the last thing, I was so apprehensive in buying the microphone because it is expensive. um, I think the Shure microphone uh cost 25,000, something like that. But then when I look at my calendar, my deadline was fast approaching. So I had to make a decision. So finally, maybe a year ago, more than a year ago, um, I finally, I thought I had to make this happen. So I decided to buy a cheap microphone, costing me less than $1,000. Then I was able to borrow this audio mixer from my nephew, Kyle. Luckily, he has two of them. Then learned how to use GarageBand, then started recording. And boy, what a relief for me when I got it off the ground. If you're procrastinating because of this reason, the solution really is just to start it. I am an advocate of lean startup methodology, and that is what I use to get off projects fast. If you need help to get started, you can contact me. Um, but to be honest with you, behind those tons of requirements was really my fear of failure. I guess the main reason why many people haven't started what they wanted to be, what they wanted, be it in business, writing a book, or is always, well, more or less, it's the fear of failure. So if you're starting, don't mind first how many followers you have. Just launch it. You know, that is based on experience. Now that I have launched my podcast, I can focus now on another task, which is strategizing how to get more listeners. It is really a laundry list of to-dos. Okay, the fourth um, procrastinator type is what they call the shiny object syndrome. The last procrastination personality type, um, this type of procrastination always has a big idea, then he goes for it and start it without completing what is currently pending. So he ends up with several unfinished projects. I believe this is a common problem to entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs are great starters. And as an entrepreneur, this is my biggest Waterloo. What I normally do, I look for a partner who can continue or do maintenance work. Once I launch, I am off to a new project. But I know I need to follow through. At Trails, my wife is my perfect partner because she is awesome on details. And we have staff who are great in keeping the lights on. As leaders, we have to lead more and manage less. What I do now is to write down my ideas. I always have an idea notebook where I jot down all my ideas. Earlier, I told you that I am still working on my first book. But believe it or not, I already have an idea of what my second book is. Lucky for me, I have my wife to keep me grounded and tell me to complete first what I started. Um, well, this really worked for me well. So there you go, the different procrastinator personality types. Again, it is important that you identify what type you are in so you can address them properly. Why we need to do this? Because we want to change to happen. Thank you so much for listening, friends. Please rate and review this podcast and share it to your friends. Until next time, blessings always.